Bloomfield, and also Rob Fowler and I are here with Ashley Morris from Green Diamond, and here to give us an introduction about the spotted owl research that she's been working on and that Green Diamond does here in the Redwoods.
The great outdoors of Corbell, California. Here we are.
All right, well, thank you so much, Ashley.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you for the intro. All right, I'm Ashley Morris. I'm a wildlife biologist with Green Diamond Resource Company, as they introduced me. Our crew is responsible for surveying for any sensitive or listed species that might be impacted by the company's management practices. We primarily survey for northern spotted owls in the summer months. The northern spotted owl is a federally and state listed species. We conduct two different types of surveys for northern spotted owls, night calling surveys and also daytime stand searches. The nighttime calling surveys primarily are used to find new birds or birds that may have gone missing from an area where we think there should be birds, where we found them in the past. And then the daytime stand searches are used to pinpoint an owl's location and also to get different demographic information. So, on the nighttime calling, we have these lovely electronic collars, basically like carrying around a bunch of bricks. And we take those out, we call around different areas, and we're looking to get a spotted owl response. When we get a response, we try and figure out the location, so the distance, and the bearing of that owl. And then we're estimating how far away we think it is, where it is in that stand. And then the next day that we have, as soon as we can, we go back in there and we do a stand search. The stand search is used, as I said before, to pinpoint the location and also to get different demographic information. We usually do the THP, the nighttime calling around any area that we're going to be harvesting in or that we might cause some kind of disturbance. And also in those areas where we think we should have owls, where we've had owls in the past, but we cannot find them in the current year. Owls respond better at night, obviously, they're nocturnal. So if we do the nighttime calling, we might be more likely to get a response that we couldn't get during the day. The daytime stand searches we do in all of our known activity centers that have been active in the most recent past, so in the last 3 years. But we also are responsible for surveying all of our known sites that we have found since we started the owl program back in about 1989. That's about 250 or so sites across Green Diamond's 370,000 acres. And we do some level of survey in all of those sites, either nighttime calling or the daytime stand search. So in sites where we know we have owls, we're looking to figure out a couple different things. Whether or not they're occupied, which is fairly simple, is there a bird there? Whether or not they are paired, so if there's a male and a female or just a single bird in that site for the year. Their reproductive status, and then we track individuals. We track the individuals using bands. I have a couple here that I'll show you. I'm not sure if they'll show up on the video, but here is a bag of bands. So these are just little plastic bands with different combinations and different colors that go on the owl's legs. They're like a little identification bracelet. And these can be seen from the ground, so we use binoculars to figure out what the combination on a certain owl is. And then we can know where that owl is moving from year to year or within the same year. We have the largest mark recapture data set on Green Diamond for the northern spotted owl. Mark recapture is basically that banding process. You're marking the owls with a band and then going out and finding them again. So that's what mark recapture means. So far we have banded over 1,800 birds on the Green Diamond property since we started banding birds. We have a lot of banded birds. We try to band all of the adults that are unbanded on our property every year. We also go into known sites to figure out the reproductive status, and we do that by mimicking prey delivery. So we take live lab-raised mice with us out into the field, and we feed those to the owls. In the breeding season, male owls will take prey to the female if they're courting or if they're nesting, and then later in the year, both individuals will take prey to their young. And so it's a way that we can figure out if the birds are nesting or if they have young later in the year. So we go out, we present a mouse, the owl hopefully takes it, and then we have to figure out what that owl does with the mouse. So it might eat the mouse, it might cache it on a branch, so owls will leave food somewhere in their territory to come back and eat later, or they might take the mouse either to a female on a nest or to their young. So we basically have to give them a mouse and then chase them through the woods to figure out what they're going to do with it. So spotted owls don't eat white lab-raised mice usually. They prey on a variety of different species in this area, primarily dusky-footed wood rats, northern flying squirrels, and red tree voles or Sonoma tree voles. On Green Diamond property, they primarily eat dusky-footed wood rats, and that's because dusky-footed wood rats like to eat sun-loving plants that are found primarily in young stands, about 25 to 30 years old. And we are a timber company, so when we clear cut an area and that timber grows back up, we create a young stand which dusky-footed wood rats like. So we have a lot of dusky-footed wood rats, and thus we have a lot of food for spotted owls. But the spotted owls need more than just food to survive, and we know that, and to thrive as a population. So we also retain their nesting structures. Spotted owls nest on platforms or in cavities. And those features are features that are hard to find on young trees. They take a long time to grow. So whenever a forester is laying out a timber harvest plan or an area to cut, they pick out trees that have those features that an older tree might have. So those platforms, those cavities, complex crowns, and they save those for attention to persist on the landscape. So since that's one of our practices, we're able to have an area for the owls to nest in and an area for the owls to eat. My boss likes to say that we have owls that have their kitchen next to their bedroom. They've got both the things they need. We're in a site right now, actually. I was looking at the tree behind me. We're in a site right now that is a good example of that. Behind me is one of those nesting trees that was retained. So you can see this is a larger diameter tree, but the rest of this stand is fairly young. It's about a 30-year-old stand. But because we have retained this tree, and this is an actual tree that spotted owls nested in, so they have the nesting structure in this tree behind me, but the rest of the stand is fairly young and absent of those nesting structures, but it has the food resource that they need. So this site has a fairly fun story associated with it. This site is in the Mad River watershed. The Mad River watershed is a lot of third growth, some second growth. And back when they first started surveying the Mad River watershed, they were only surveying areas of second growth where they thought owls would be. So they were only surveying where they thought they would find birds. And then one day, Lowell Diller, who started the whole owl program here at Green Diamond, his bike had a mishap down the road here, and so he was walking his bike out of this area down this road, and he was coming through here, and he thought, well, I'm here, I might as well just hoot, even though this stand is only about 20 years old and I'm not going to find an owl here. I'll just call anyway. And lo and behold, he found an owl pair, and this became a site. It was recolonized after being harvested in only a 20-year-old stand. And after that, they changed their surveying practices in the Mad River watershed, and they decided to just survey everything. And in that year that they decided to expand their surveying, they basically doubled the number of sites in that watershed. And so the Mad River watershed has about half of the sites in third growth stands. And that's because we also retain these trees that they need that actually have structure. And because we have so much food, they can occur in relatively high densities, more than what you might find in an old growth forest. So I think we're going to go next to another site. That site is also primarily made up of 30-year-old trees, about the age of a 30-year-old stand. 3/4 of it is about 30 years old, and maybe 1/4 to a third is actually a stand that's about 70 years old. So I'll take you to that. All right, so before we go to our next site, which is where we're going to try and find some birds, I thought I would play for you all some spotted owl calls, just so you can see what they sound like, because the next site, they might not hoot, they might just come into us. So I'll play it on the collar here. So that's just a basic 4-note call. That's one of the most common ones you'll hear. So if we do find owls today, we might hear this call. Also, also, when they're courting or when they're nesting, the males will do a delivery hoot that's a 4-note. So if they have a mouse and they're taking it to a female, they actually will make that hoot while they have the mouse, not the delivery hoot. They're taking it somewhere. So it's a good indication they're taking it to another bird or to a nest. We also have a contact call, which is this that kind of whistle. It can be a more aggressive sound, or it can be a very sweet sound that they make when they're interacting with each other, exchanging mice. They also have like a nesting chitter, which I don't have, but they'll do it when they're delivering to a female or to young. And they have a variety of other calls that can escalate in aggression, etc. But those are the basic calls. And maybe we'll hear some today if we've got a nest. We might hear that delivery hoot. So.
So how many pairs do you think there are out here on Green Diamond land?
So
Spotted owls?
in 2020, we had 86 sites that were occupied.
Oh wow.
And then we ended up having, so that could be by a pair or by just a single bird.
Yeah.
And then we ended up having 21 of those pairs nesting and 20 owlets that were successfully fledged. And then as far as monitoring sites, we monitor 250 to 300 sites that we've been monitoring since we started the owl program. And of those, we might have 100 to 150 that we do actual stand searches in that have been occupied in recent years.
Wow.
So that just kind of varies, obviously, with occupancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so last year we had 86 occupied sites.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, to see this year.
Yeah. And it varies a lot every year depending on weather conditions and such like that.
It's been declining across their range, but it also goes on our properties. The occupancy has been in decline. But as far as from year to year, it doesn't vary too much. Last year we had pretty much the same.
Oh, okay.
Last year, 2019, we had pretty much the same. Alright, so they were asking about barred owls and whether or not barred owls influence spotted owls. And they do. There's been a lot of research on that. So barred owls compete indirectly and directly with the spotted owls. So they compete directly in that they will actually be aggressive towards the spotted owls and cause a confrontation and potentially kick them out of the area. And indirectly to compete for different resources. So nesting structures and for food. There are several studies showing that the barred owl influence is negatively affecting spotted owls. So if a barred owl is in an area, we are less likely to find spotted owls there, less likely to see them reproduce successfully. There are several reasons for this. Barred owls are bigger and more aggressive birds. They also eat a lot of different food, whereas spotted owls are kind of specialists. They don't eat as wide of a variety of food. So in a certain area, a barred owl can eat a lot more food than a spotted owl can and thus be more successful. They also can have, because of the smaller home ranges, so in a given area you might have 4 times the number of barred owls that you do spotted owls. They also have much larger clutches. So a spotted owl typically will have 1 to 2 young, maybe 3 on very rare occasions, whereas a barred owl can have up to 5 young. So overall, they're just bigger, badder species, and they can push a spotted owl out pretty easily. So yes, they are impacting the spotted owls, and we do have them on our property. We are here at our next site, and I'm gonna do a couple of hoots. I didn't bring the collar, so I'm gonna use my voice, so fingers crossed that I actually can hoot like a spotted owl. You guys can let me know. So I'll see if we can call one in, and then we'll go through the whole process and collect some data. So here we go. Walk as I survey. A lot of times the owls are sitting and staring at you, and they're very cryptic, so it's very hard to see them when they're still. But if you walk, it can make them move and come towards you, and then you can catch them flying. We're also very good at walking backwards because the owls often fly behind you. You gotta get good at walking backwards.
I think that was. Yeah, one doing the whip, 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 and then a gobble down here, huh?
I think actually before we walk all the way down there, I think we'll go down this way a little bit and hoot at a spot down here around the corner, and then if we don't find them, we can make our way back up the road.
Okay.
And hooting along there. Warning about that. But it's a really important research tool that we have. And without the mice, we wouldn't be able to find the owls' nests and protect them, and also figure out that reproductive information. So they die quickly, and we're glad that we have this tool. So here we go. for a mouse.
Okay. So since the female is not coming off the nest, is that likely that there are eggs there now?
Yep, so she would be incubating. This time of year, it's a little bit early still, so they might not have a nest even if they're going to initiate later. But yeah, she's on there, she's incubating, and we believe there's a nest, but we haven't seen the female come off or the male deliver to a nest, so we're not 100% sure, but we did hear another bird. The fact we didn't see her is a good sign that they're nesting, and it could be that she just ate a meal, so she's not hungry, and that drive to stay on the nest is pretty high, so
Yeah.
we'll see what. Sometimes they sit with the mouse for half an hour, and you get to just sit and wait and enjoy the experience. But we'll see what he'll do with this mouse, and we'll try to give him another and see if he'll take one. Eventually, try again to the female and see if she's ready to come off. Or
Could the presence of jays be keeping him from wanting to go to the nest?
no, jays not really. The jays do harass them, and they'll be a little bit irritated by them, but the jays aren't really a big threat. They're more just a nuisance. If there were something else where we were concerned about predation on the nest or concerned about the owl's behavior, we would actually just end the visit. Not necessarily because they wouldn't go to the nest, but because we're concerned about causing some kind of predation event on the eggs or later in the year on the young. So if we had any kind of reason to believe that there was another avian predator around, we would just go.
Honey, you want this one?
Bail down.
Okay. And go look for, see if you can find the nest tree.
Sounds very promising.
Okay. So Ashley's heading down to potentially maybe find the nest tree down slope, since this bird is calling pretty frequently and took the mice and flew off. And I'm just going to stop it there. Oh. I'm getting video of her preening.
Turned around or something.
She's kind of awkward in there.
Yeah. Looks a
Another
little tight.
feeling.
Look at that.
I know the feeling.